Welcome back, everybody. The History Guy here. This is episode 2, playing as the Empire of Japan on Hearts of Iron 4, the Black Ice mod. It's a kind of total reconversion mod of the vanilla Hearts of Iron 4 game. If you didn't see episode 1, there's a link in the description below where you can go back and watch that first episode. We also talked briefly about the history of pre-war Japan leading up to the Second World War and all the stuff that was going on, the political upheaval, military upheaval that was happening there. And we are now into April of 1937. So that's where we'll pick up, right where we left off. Just to let you know, all of you who are patrons through Patreon currently, there are 14 of you. First of all, thank you to all of you. You're going to be hearing a lot more about that as we go because I'm going to get a lot more active on those things. By the time this episode airs, all of you who are current patrons should have gotten a message from me just trying to get updated information on your perks that have been made available to you at the various levels you're at. I know some of you have declined to take advantage of those perks. You just want to support the channel and aren't worried about those things, and I greatly appreciate that, but I will reach out just once again to confirm that and make sure that we are up to date on all of those perks, and I'm making sure that you're getting the things that are promised to you. So here we go. I've made the decision to go with Purge the Kadoa faction, which is going to take us down the road that I think seems most historical and eventually, of course, can lead to strike the USA, which would be Pearl Harbor. But most importantly, it gives me a lot of options as far as expanding the Imperial Japanese Navy, which is what I want to do. So that's what we're going to do, and we're just going to continue to work on building up the Army and the Navy, preparing for an invasion of China, which is going to get me those much-needed resources, particularly steel, which I need to build up that Navy. So here we go. With the completion of the Purge the Kadoa faction, I'm going to add 10% stability, which is huge for me right now, because I was only at 39%. That gets me up to 49%. The higher I can get that stability, the benefits are just going to be all across the board, all the different ways in which we benefit from that. So we're going to go with Liaison Conference now, which is going to add 1 to planning skill for every Army leader. That certainly is going to help things. I can go, yeah, you know what? Wait a second. Let's go this way first because there's a lot of bonuses for factories, which are going to be super useful for me moving forward. Also another research slot that I can gain. So I feel like that's probably more important than going and demanding French Indochina and things of that nature. So we've also got an opened up slot for research here. And it looks like there's not a whole lot else I can do right now down these paths. We are into 1937 now. So there's some new things that are available to us. Let's go ahead and deal with some of this stuff. It's going to help with upkeep and attrition. We're into May. Not a lot happening. I'm not in the place yet where I'm going to worry about this invasion, but we are going to have to think about that, I think, before the end of 1937. All right, we've completed the most recent update to medium tanks, so I've got to start thinking about adding some tanks either to my infantry units or creating some armored units. In the meantime, I'm looking at World War I Army Doctrine because I haven't really done anything with Army Doctrine yet. So we're going to start updating our Army Doctrine. I'm going to spend some experience points to do that, make it happen a little faster, so that we can get into the World War II doctrines. Those things are going to certainly help a lot when I start getting into combat. Atomic research, the initial atomic research is getting close to being finished. We've also got electronic computing, which is going to give me a 2% research speed bonus. We're going to keep those research bonuses coming. But otherwise, I'm still, I'm dealing with a shortage of oil, a huge shortage of steel. Those are things I just can't get around until I launch my invasions. So we're about to come up on another national focus. We're into July of 1937, and next is going to be, after we add these 2 civilian factories and a couple of other changes, we're going to add National Mobilization Law, which is going to change me over to war economy, and then you can see all of the effects that having a war economy will have. We're going to probably start wanting to produce military factories instead of civilian factories. But in the meantime, we'll do this. And I've got to start thinking about ramping up to war with China. I'm amassing some political PowerPoints. There's not a lot I want to do with those at the moment, but looking ahead to when I do go to war, I'm going to be able to do things like military high command. I can make some changes to vision. I actually might do this one now because I'm facing some attrition because of the shortage of supplies here. So anything I can do to reduce that attrition while I'm continuing my maneuvers will be good. I'm trying to build up my Army experience points because I'm trying to make some changes to the makeup of my infantry divisions. Rather than having specific armored divisions, I'm just going to add armor to my existing infantry divisions and reduce the number of infantry units in them. I've also ramped up the number of infantry divisions that I'm producing. So just continuing to ramp up toward war. Let's look at continued Army Doctrine. We want to finish this World War I Army Doctrine out so that we can go ahead and get on to World War II doctrines. September 1937, let's take a look at where we're currently at on some research. We're about to get HQ communications, which is going to help with reinforce rate and planning speed. Construction 2, which is going to give me some bonuses to building civilian factories and all buildings for that matter. Machine gun infantry coordination, which is my current doctrine research. Massed strikes is our current naval doctrine research. This was land doctrine. Basic particle accelerators is our next in the thread of nuclear doctrine research, and now we've unlocked. We already had ship workshops. I just finished fighter workshops, which I'm going to build some of those. That's going to help with building those things. Let's go ahead and do tank workshops next. They only take 40 days. I've also gone ahead and started trading for all of the resources I need, so I can start building my navy that I need, because all of those ships were on hold at the time. So you can see trade here. I've used all but 7 of my civilian factories in order to trade for that steel. Manchukuo was really cheap to trade with. I only had to use 1 civilian factory to pick up 66 steel, so I wish I had done that a lot sooner, because that was a really cheap price to pay for a lot of the steel I needed to be building my fleets. I didn't realize it would be that cheap for Manchukuo, or I would have done it much, much sooner. After the current research, which is National Mobilization Law, I've got some choices. I can nationalize war industry, get another research center, and get 4 more military factories there. So there's a total of 8 military factories to be had in these 2 spots. But I also have to beginning to think about expansion, because we're getting into 1938. I'm sure war is going to be breaking out sooner rather than later, and I don't want to get too far left behind. So I may have to make a decision about one or both of these things here. I may start with this one. It's only 35 days once I do the liaison conference. And then at the very least, I can free myself up to create factions if I want to, or I can make the choice to join a faction with the Germans. So they've been pretty quiet over there. There's not a lot happening on the world stage. There's no world tension. I would expect that once we get into 1938, Germany's going to start to get active with the Anschluss and taking the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, all of the things that Germany normally does. So we'll see. So we've completed liaison conference. We're going to go with Greater East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere. That's going to allow me to create factions, and we'll choose that for now, and then we'll probably have to make a decision here about where we're going to go. It may benefit me to go ahead and expand my shipyards. I am working on that, by the way. Let's look at construction. I'm working on building my first armored vehicle factory and then a shipyard. And these things are going to help me to reduce the production costs of those things, which will be huge for me in trying to conserve steel and make the most of it that I can. I'm also kind of shifting around some of my armies here, and I've stopped maneuvers with my Chinese units. Chinese invasion force, so we can kind of see where things stand, whether or not I'm going to have some success if I go ahead and start invading into China. All right, so we've completed that national focus. Now we've got a decision to make. Do we demand French Indochina, which we can't do because Paris is not controlled by a French republic? That's kind of interesting. Does that mean that they have changed their government in France? Let's take a look and see what's going on there. Social democracy. Well, I don't know what's going on, but it would appear that maybe some things are happening in France. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but anyway, that's not an option for us. So we're going to have to look elsewhere. We could expand dockyards, but I think right now we're going to go ahead and focus on getting this new research center. And we're going to go ahead and make the move on China. So we're going to go for justifying a war goal to conquer. It's going to take 5 months to do that, so we'll be right into the perfect time. We'll be right into June or so, where we can start the invasion. I've gone ahead and added my... Oh boy, hello. So as soon as I started ramping up to war, they went ahead and started building up some factions. So now I've got to probably do the same. I'm actually surprised I haven't been able to invite Manchukuo to a faction, for example, because I'm allowed to create factions now. But it doesn't look like I have that option, so we've got to get more positives than negatives, and ideology seems to be an issue, and they've got a neutral foreign policy. So alright, so that's not an option. We probably are going to have to think about joining faction with the Germans, which right here would be an option. It only takes 16 days to do that. Italy, Germany, and the Empire of Japan are a little fascist axis. So we'll get there next. March 1938, here's where we are on research right now. We're about to complete rotating turrets, which is going to give a 15% bonus to soft attack and 10% to hard attack on all tanks. We're working on a new infantry weapon, which will be a 4% soft attack bonus. Infantry support for MG. That's our land doctrine that we're working on. That'll give breakthrough for all infantry and motorized and mechanized divisions. There's our current Navy doctrine. Continue to work on nuclear research. We're working on excavation 1, which is going to allow me to start getting storage output. I want to start storing up some of my resources before we get into World War II, which I know will be coming at some point. I also went ahead and added down in here in military high command, I added an infantry expert, which will give me infantry division attack and defense bonuses. And I believe that's where we're at on everything at the moment. We've got a couple of months yet until we get into war with China. So let's take a look and see where we're at here. We've got a lot of tank techs we can go after, but for the time being, I want to look ahead. We're getting close to where we can start researching a whole new line of ships. I'm most concerned about light carrier 2s. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and start, even though we're a little ahead on that. Actually, let's go for the Shokaku class, the full-size carriers. We want to start building those as quickly as possible, because it's going to take a couple years to get them into service. Alright, another national focus completed, and there's the Anschluss of Austria. That gets us up to 11% world tension. It is slowly climbing. Let's go ahead and put our new technology thread to use here. Not entirely sure where I want to go. We've got basic naval techs that might come in handy, and those are going to take a little while, so let's go ahead and work on some of those. As far as national focus goes, let's look around a little bit, shall we? See where else we can go. Let's go back over to here. Oh, we could get the Marco Polo Bridge incident. That would have made things happen a little faster, but I guess we can't quite do that anyway. A lot of choices to make here. Not entirely sure which ones I want to choose. Warrior traditions, division recovery rate, war support, division attack. Yeah, let's do that. France and Britain announce alliance, and so we're one more step closer to all of the pieces falling into place for World War II. We're about to get warrior traditions. I think then we're going to go ahead and get our alliance going. We'll go with the tripartite pact. All right, we've signed our agreement creating the Axis. Or at the very least guaranteeing the independence of the other Axis powers. We are still not at the place where we can do this Oh, we've got to be at war. That'll bypass it. That doesn't help a whole lot. So we've completed that. I guess we got to start thinking about ramping up our military factories. I'm just thinking about other options that might be out there. I don't think any of these are possible anymore. We do have a lot of options here. Fortifying the border, I'm not really sure how much that helps. Heavy industry development, Japanese settlement, reinforce the Soviet border is not really necessary. Chinese border incident's going to be bypassed here soon enough. Alright, let's get this bonus to Army experience. That'll help me to make the necessary changes to my divisions. But we're going to be about a month away from war being ready to be launched here. Got a lot of attrition right now just because I can't quite get the supplies in there that I'd like. That'll change once we can grab a couple of these naval bases down here along the coast. So fighting through it first is going to be pretty rough. It's June 19th, 1938. And it's time for war. So let's go ahead and select our Chinese invasion force. And we'll go ahead to the available war goal. We'll declare war. We will call our allies. And here we go. Right off the bat, I've got to go ahead and issue orders to all my air wings. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we will begin the invasion. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. Wait. Oh, the Soviet Republic of China. Okay. For a minute there, I thought we had the Soviet Union coming into the war, and I knew that didn't seem right. So I want to see right off the bat where we're looking at as far as numbers go. Obviously, he's going to have fielded manpower advantages on me, and there's nothing I can do about that. I've got to count on my superior technology and weaponry to be able to do the job. And apparently supplies are making it pretty difficult for me to even be able to move into his territory. So I wasn't expecting that to be such an issue. Maybe we can change the aggressiveness, and that'll be enough to get everybody moving. I'm not sure. But that's certainly a real problem, and I don't know what I can do about that. Looks like that's going to do the trick for a lot of them. And once we move in and take some of his territory, that'll reduce the load on my supplies. Lend-Lease, sure, why not? A couple other things I got to deal with here, some research. We'll keep researching for some of our naval technologies. I've still got some air units that don't have missions given to them, so we got to get all that sorted out. We've got mutinies in the Army. Alarming news have reached military high command about a number of units in our Army refusing orders from superior officers. While none of the units have left their position in the line, representatives of the soldiers have made it quite clear that they will not obey any orders to attack the enemy. Well, what the heck is that about? So we've got to decide what we're going to do, and I don't imagine any of these choices will be good ones. We can't do anything about it now. Well, that's not going to fly. Surround the mutinous units with loyalists and order them to stand down. We'll either crush it or it'll be an empty threat. It's going to cost me political power, which I do have. Alright, so I think we'll go with hold a patriotic speech before the mutineers. It'll take 45 days. That's not cool. But we are starting to move. It's just going slow, and it's this supply issue that's a nightmare for me right now. Alright, so there's our good speech. Gain stability 5%, but that still puts me at 0% stability. War dropped me to 0. So we've got to do something about this stability issue. It's killing me right now. So I've got to find some ways to deal with stability. I'm also working on trying to open up a second front to try to relieve the pressure, because it's just really slow going right now. So we're going to get a naval invasion going here, and I think it's probably ready to go. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this naval invasion across. And once we do that, we can start pouring some units in right there. Hopefully they will be well supplied. They can take some of that pressure off of what's happening. Here they come. Let's find out. Hopefully that he doesn't have anybody there. And if that's the case, then it makes it a little easier. It looks like we're going to land without opposition. Alright, so now rather than this being a Korean peninsula, this is our second front, and we're going to start pushing through with as many divisions as we can. We've only got 11 in that force, but now we can land more. We were only able to use 4 in the initial invasion. And it looks like we're bringing in enough fuel to be able to supply the small naval task force under Admiral Yamamoto, which is protecting this invasion. So we'll see what happens with this as we move it forward. I'm hoping this is what makes a difference, because it doesn't look like he's got anybody down there right now. Mid-October 1938, and the one place I don't have a lot of supply issues is up here, and so that's where we're going to kind of focus our attack for now and kind of swing it around this way, and then maybe eventually get in here and maybe encircle these guys, and that's how we'll get past them. We're gaining stability. We've had some things that have allowed me to get it all the way up to 29% now, so that's been helpful. And we have made a little bit of progress from our naval invasion here, but it looks like we're going to be stuck for the time being because he's finally gotten some forces into position. So let's take a look at where the war stands. I've only lost 1,000 men. We've inflicted 11,000 casualties. Obviously, he just has unlimited manpower, so it's going to be all about taking territory, not inflicting casualties. And supply is what's limiting that right now. I can't build up this naval base any more than I have, and that's what's limiting my ability to pour supplies into this region right here. So I think we're pretty much going to have to be at a standstill here, and I'm going to have to start shifting units up to this attack here where we can get supplies straight through Manchukuo, because it's just not happening in my territory that I own here. Admiral Yamamoto and his small fleet, right now he's got 2 light cruisers, heavy cruiser, a light carrier, the Zuiho, and 15 destroyers, and he's been winning battle after battle. He just sunk 2 light cruisers, a destroyer, and 5 transports. That was actually the second time that he's won a significant victory like that. So we're going to keep that going. Let's look down at our dockyards now. And it looks like we've got some free dockyards available. So just looking at battleships, I'm thinking not too many more battleships. We're going to focus more on carriers and on support ships for those carriers. Let's get some more light cruisers going. We'll keep a thread of those, maybe build 4 or 5. Yeah, there we go. So we continue to break through out here. That's good news, and it looks like we might be in position now to do a little bit of encirclement, maybe destroy 7 divisions that are caught in here. We're shifting the units up here to push the invasion on this side where I've got better supply, and that seems to be working for me right now. There's War of the Worlds. The world is not coming to an end. 2,000 casualties, 13,000 inflicted. Again, numbers kind of irrelevant because I'm facing the Chinese, and they probably got 8 or 9 million manpower. Oh boy, we just got cut off. That's not good, so I'm going to have to fix that up. Well, it appears we may have accidentally sunk an American ship, and that's not good. So we've got to be careful of those such things. We can agree to American terms and lose some political power, or we can gain political power and ramp up the tension between us and the United States. And I think that's what we'll do, even though we definitely don't want to be at war with the U.S. right now. All right, we've reconnected with our force. No war this year, then. There's the Munich Agreement. It looks like the Spanish Civil War is also over, and we've researched some new fighters. Now we've got these guys surrounded. Let's see if we can finish them off. We're going to just pour all of our forces into making an attack. No. I don't know what we're doing there, but let's not give up that territory that we just gained. We got to start producing new equipment. It's November 1938. We'll take this maybe up to the new year, and then we'll call it an episode. So here we are on January 1st of 1939. We've made significant inroads up in here. If we can just finish taking out all of this territory, we can move down in. My goal then is to sweep around and kind of pocket this whole area if I can. And then only then we'll be able to really make progress. I'm starting to have supply issues here as well, so I'm building up this naval base right here. I'm hoping that'll allow more supplies to flow through. I'm also building up the infrastructure. So supply is really holding me back big time right now. So I'm doing all I can to alleviate that issue, but it's just taking a long time to do it. World tension's at 20%. Here's what the war looks like. I've lost 20,000 men. We've inflicted almost 50,000 casualties. But obviously we know he can go way better than I can with that. But it looks like his fielded manpower is down. I'm not entirely sure why that is, because we haven't inflicted that many casualties. I'm hoping maybe I can get the Germans to send some help, but I'm not sure how much that would help, again, because of the supply issues. But let me know your thoughts. Is there anything I'm missing as far as how to better alleviate the supply issues? Because I feel like I'm doing all I can. Let's take a look at the supply map. You can see, yellow is obviously better than red, but red is not good. And all the supplies are flowing in from right here. And that naval base is already maxed out as high as it can go. So I'm just not getting things through as best I can. So it looks like maybe infrastructure would help some with that. So let's go ahead and go to construction on infrastructure. I can't do anything about any of that infrastructure. I can only do something about this territory here and these territories here. So that's all I can do, really, at the moment. We'll move that stuff up so it gets a little higher in the queue. And that's about it. So use the comment section below. Please let me know your thoughts. And drop a like if you would. And you'll see another episode here in the next couple of days. Thanks for watching.